back to the Three Idiots Talk Aquariums podcast. We very much appreciate you guys tuning in. Hopefully, so this one's live, so hopefully there's some of you there. If not, Ryan's going to be very sad. I can tell you that. So, have you guys had anything exciting going on in your personal aquarium lives recently? In your, shops or anything? Any exciting breeding? Any exciting anything really? Hit me. One of you.
Hit me with your rhythm stick.
No, I will not be doing that.
Hit me. Anyway, of course, because I'm white, I've got sensational rhythm anyway, especially when I drink.
No.
But
and you've been drinking. It's 6 a.m.
Not morning drinking. It is 12 o'clock somewhere in the world though, so But anyway,
exactly.
I have not had a lot going on in the fish room, to be honest. That is my story.
Well, that's disappointing.
Things are just going well. Things are just going well. Things are just breeding. Things are just sticking along.
You're just busy being an absolute pro.
I had someone from America contact me wanting to send fish to America. Initially, I thought it was a scam, but it was not. And then someone from Australia contacted me wanting me to send fish to Australia too. So,
Ryan, premier fish exporter.
We will see, but I don't think I actually produce enough fish to make any of that viable. And I don't think I physically could with the number of tanks and time that I have for it. So,
yeah. Unless you just focus on stuff that's, maybe a little bit more common in New Zealand, but not so much overseas for some high dollar, I can't think of anything. OB peacocks.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't even, I Googled, how to export fish from New Zealand, and obviously I can't just find anything. There's just nothing.
I don't know if anyone's ever tried, to be honest.
I'm sure someone has done it, but it's not like it's all about importing or exporting dead fish or food fish. So there'd be some sort of.
There's probably not a ton of restrictions compared to bringing them in, because
Yeah, but I imagine MPI and the government being what they are, they'll want to take a cut somewhere, and they'll want to have some sort of licensing thing, and they'll want to have all this bloody stuff,
They got to fund those tax cuts somehow. Topical.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry for all the American listeners. That's just Google it. You know what I mean.
If you ever put anything in there about politics and these Americans listening, they'll love it. Yeah, go Polly, go Polycam, go Polycam.
I was actually looking the other day. We actually got quite a few American and Canadian listeners. So shout out to all you guys. Drop a comment and say hi. Ryan will love to expand his horizons.
No, he won't. He's a boomer.
Oh yeah.
I didn't think that the world existed south of the Bombays. This is a new thing for me.
It doesn't. America's definitely north. There's stuff there. Don't worry about it.
Is there?
Yeah. So yeah, what have you been going on, Cam? Anything exciting breed or eventful happen?
More tanks.
Yeah, more tanks, more tanks.
Enough or not enough still?
Never enough. It's like Pokemon. You can never have them all. You just got to get more and more and more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had a few more tanks arrive on last weekend and knocked a few stands up yesterday. I'll rephrase it. I didn't knock them up because I can't build to serve myself. My dad knocked them up for me, so that's a happy time. Yeah.
You still have to get daddy / brother / first cousin to knock things up for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody. Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. If I ever need building done, my brother knocks it up for me as well. So I probably can't say that much about this.
Yeah.
Not
all of us can be electrical engineers and DIY bloody
extraordinaires. Is what you need to
know
say.
how to use a hammer. You actually know which end of the hammer to hit with. So
at the fish club, at the fish club meeting yesterday, I did hear Ryan humble bragging to someone about how he used to work on the helicopters and Oh yeah, back when I was like just flying around the world, like working on all these helicopters. It was good fun,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like
That
what
was
a humble
topical.
guy.
That was topical though. We were talking. She was
Oh yeah, I'm
talking
sure it
about.
was.
She was talking about how she worked for another government organisation, and we were talking about getting institutionalized, and how much you love it, but then you do need to actually get out and not be institutionalized at some stage.
Yeah,
So yeah,
the classic,
but yes,
helicopter maintenance to fish tanks, eh? It's a good
but,
combo.
but we did go to the fish club meeting last night, Cam, which was I guess related, but also good.
Yeah, just had there wasn't any speakers or anything. It was just a Christmas barbecue. So that
But
was vibes.
there was a speaker. It was playing music.
Hey, old comedy guy,
Uh, yeah,
comedy guy. But no, that
Hey,
was
when
good.
you're
Good
on,
time.
you are on.
I disagree.
and
Yeah, well, you
and
don't get it yet. You don't have
at one
kids.
stage there, I had a beer, and Led Zeppelin was playing on the speaker. So I was like, "This is a cool fish club meeting."
Yeah, man.
And there was
Good
lots of
time.
sausage getting flopped around, so it was pretty good.
Yeah, man. What more could you want, eh?
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, no, good to hear it. Yeah, I haven't had that much exciting recently happen either, so probably just gloss over that. But what we did have is one of our listeners, Helen, has sent us an email. So if you guys listening want to send us an email, you can. I'll leave the email address in the description below, and you can tell us any stories or ask any questions or anything notable that happens to you, ideally related to fish, but it doesn't have to be.
Um,
But let
and
us know.
ironically, Helen has just arrived.
Oh, hello,
Morning,
Helen.
Helen.
We were just about to read out your story that you emailed the other day. So I don't know. I'm probably going to read it because I'm the only one that knows how to read. But I'm going to tell you guys the story. Buckle up. So the story is titled "The Indestructibility of Coolie Loaches," and it goes as follows. Forever ago, back when heaters and thermostats were sold separately, the 8-year-old me had to wire required wait, what? Had to wire required number of heaters for tank size to the thermostat and then plug that in, basically. Like something that Ryan would do. Imagine that.
So but in the old days, in the good old days, in the old days, I don't know if it was that good, but
Ugh,
the heaters didn't come as one unit. They came as like a thermostat and then a heater, and you bought them separately and actually had to study join wires together and stick the heater on one end and the thermostat on the other end. And it sounds like a
try not to
great thing to
electrocute
do.
anyone.
Sounds like a great thing to do around water.
Mhm.
Yeah, especially when you're 8 years old. There's like zero ways that's going to end badly.
I see no problem here.
Yeah, yeah, it's what you do anyway. So this is what Helen has been up to, and then oh yeah, and she says they didn't come with a plug as well. You had to do that separate again.
You just twist up
Which
the wires and stick them in the holes in the wall.
just take tie them to a fork or something.
Just lick them.
Stick that in the wall. Yeah. So she says things went wrong, obviously, as you would expect in this situation, but not always, but sometimes. So she had a number of tanks as a kid, and the hobby was more or less self-supporting, you know, as a lot of people do, like breeding fish and then selling them and all that kind of thing. And one of the tanks was, I'm going to say this is feet and inches, but it might be wrong. Like 3 foot by 18 inches by 15 inches, I think, which would be like what, 150 liters almost, probably, as a
It's
rough
basically
guess.
3 foot by 400 by 400-ish, 440,
Yeah,
450, 400, something like that. Yeah,
yeah,
a reasonably big 3 foot tank.
yeah. And so this tank was like a community tank, um, one of those ones that's got all sorts of a mix of all different things. And there was a few cooloaches in this tank that had a little life under the gravel, but as cooloaches often do, not an easy thing to see. So sometimes they would pop up and appearing in a greater number, but catching them would have been completely dismantling the tank, obviously, because they're not an easy fish to catch at the best of times. So they kind of just get left to their own devices and do their own fishy things. And then one evening, she noticed the fish acting funny and then realized that the water was steaming. So a lot of people have been here before, even with the modern day heaters. The thermostat not pulling its weight, shall we say?
Not thermostating anymore.
Yeah, causing
And
trouble.
the heatering.
Yeah, exactly. Being too good at its job. So,
Yeah.
in a panic, she grabbed buckets of water from the other tank and caught the fish that was still alive and, put them in the bucket and then turned everything off and then left it so that she could deal with it at the weekend and focus on dealing with the other fish, like in the buckets and that. And some of them survived, but not like more than she expected survived, but not all of them, obviously. Then she didn't get round to sorting out the tank that weekend, so left it for the following week, and really just didn't want to start to deal with it, obviously, because it sucks. As the water drained out,
Also,
she
I
scooped out.
suppose she's probably like 8 years old, so she probably just wanted to like go and do other stuff. I guess what
Makes
do
sense. I
8-year-olds
mean,
do? What 8-year-olds do back then? Run around with sticks and
I don't know.
whack each other and stuff. That's what I do with my friends
Sure.
anyway.
That's what you do nowadays, but yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
she was like scooping out all these like dead plants and like the gravel and all this kind of thing, and then it got the fright of her life when a number of very grumpy cockroaches shot out the gravel and started zooming around the tank like how they do when they're upset. And so they had almost been boiled in this first time, being very hot, and then everything was off for a long time, like 10 days. No filter, no heater, no food, all this kind of thing. They just get forgotten about for all this time. And yeah, there were five very fat and happy fish. And once they got put into their new environment, lived happily for like another 5 years without any trouble. So that just goes to show if you are a beginner, Cooler Lodge's very, very good choice. If they can deal with that, they can deal with your putting cold water in and a water change, no trouble. It's pretty crazy.
That is
So
crazy.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
I've had similar stories, but only with bristle noses.
Yeah, they're ridiculously.
yeah, it
Like,
makes sense.
where you go in the fish room, you pulled a bit of wood out like the day before, and there's a dried up bristle nose on the ground, and it kind of twitches, and you put it back in a tank, and it lives. You're like, ugh, how did that
Yeah,
happen?
not
Um,
ideal.
and Helen's also said that she was obviously a very sophisticated and very rich 8-year-old because they had bows and arrows, not sticks and stones, So, well, I'd like to know where she grew up. She definitely didn't grow up in Martin, so
No one grew up in Martin.
Where's Martin?
Exactly.
Is it close to
Is it-
Helensville?
there's a big hole in the centre of the North Island, and Martin's somewhere at the bottom of it.
Except for anyone who listens from Martin, love you. Don't worry about it.
Unlikely.
Yeah. But yeah. No, so Cooler Lodges, fantastically tough little fish. What more could you want, basically?
Do they breed?
Yeah.
Like she was saying that, like something about like I almost seemed like at the beginning of her story, she was sort of implying that she put some in and extras appeared. Is that what she's saying, or
I
is
think
she
so.
saying the same amount?
That's how I read it, at least. I don't know. I've never
Like,
bred them or
how
anything
do they
before,
breed?
but
How do
They've
they breed?
bred in hobbyist tanks in New Zealand.
Are they like? Do they lay eggs, or are they live bearers, or what do they do?
I have no idea. I'm gonna assume they lay eggs, but
Or is
that's
it a case of like they just
yeah,
disappear and then an extra one just appears, another wormy shows up?
probably. I mean, honestly, you'd never see. I don't think you'd ever see them trying to breed. Like, I don't know how you could see that, but
Hmm.
if they do, that's the main thing.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
New project for you, Cam. Breed curly roaches. and tell us.
That would be quite a fun one to breed.
I agree.
That can be one of your new tanks.
Yeah, no, they're already counted for.
No,
You
need more
gotta
tanks
get
then.
That can be the new tanks that aren't ready yet.
Get some more. Get some more.
I will if you decide to fund it for me.
Just
Yeah, he sells a lot of insect screens. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Helen says there's always little tiny little ones popping up from under the gravel, and occasionally you'd see the group shooting across the glass like how quarries do, like following each other.
There you go. That's crazy as I've never seen them. I mean, I've seen them, but never kept them. I've never kept kudos just because I've always thought they just buried themselves in the gravel. You never saw them.
Is that because you don't care about anything that's not an African cichlid?
Because you
I've
don't have
kept
enough
other
of them.
fish. I've kept other
Get
fish
out of the box.
I can fit other fish before in the past.
Sure, you have.
Yeah, those lovely epistogrammas and stuff.
And guppies and all sorts of shit.
Also,
I
just
think-
quickly. Oh, sorry. Just quickly.
far
One of our listeners, Danny, said that she'd only watch if I gave her a shout out. So she did just text me and say that she's listening. So hello. Nice to see you. Good to
Hi,
see you
Daddy.
in the stream.
Are you still wearing your sweater?
Probably. Christmas sweater at the
I hope
Fish Club.
she wore it to bed last night for her partner and said, turn the light off and they jumped in bed with it on. That'll be awesome.
Yeah, man. It's called
She had
style.
a sweet sweater on, and her partner was real angry on it. Well, not angry, but real like down on her for like wearing it. And it's like, are you wearing that really? You know, are you still wearing it and stuff? Well, she was there, so. But I thought it was cool. It was a good sweater jumper, a good
Yeah, man.
Christmas jumper. Sorry. Yeah.
Yep. All good. So,
Right.
sorry, someone was saying something, and I rudely cut them off like a horrible person.
I was going to say, I think we need to do some sort of New Year's resolution on our last podcast for the year. Ryan's one can be set up an aquarium that doesn't have African cichlids in it.
Aren't we recording next week and the week
I don't
after?
know. I don't
I
know.
thought
Yeah.
we were recording right through.
We got at least 2 weeks worth of.
Did you not listen to the words that I said?
Oh, so you don't mean today?
No.
Oh,
I'll just
last
set up.
one that we
I'll
do
set up
for
an-
the
I'll
year.
just- okay, I'll do that. But I'll set up an empty tank and then for the new year, and then I'll just put some goldfish in it, or put some bristle noses in it.
Such a
yeah, man.
loser.
Sweet. So we may as well get into the main topic of the episode,
random
which
question.
you will.
Random question.
I'm gonna do a
Well,
random question.
If you guys were listening before we started, I said we're not going to do that because we're doing the
didn't
story
agree on
that
that.
it's going to
We
take
didn't
a
agree on that.
lot of time.
You
We
cannot
didn't
do
agree
that.
on that.
Well, we probably should have because I'm the boss and I said it.
There's
So,
Well,
three
we did
people,
the
two
random
people
question.
might do it. One doesn't mean you do it. That's how democracy works.
He's dying anyway. But anyway.
yeah, sorry. I was
I'm a
choking on
politician.
waffle.
You know how politics works. 2 versus 1.
Okay, so what's the random question? Let's go.
This is a dictatorship. I'm the boss. Just do what I say.
Yeah, definitely a dick. Yeah.
Funny guy.
And I like tater chips. So there you go.
All right. Well,
Uh,
okay. We'll ask. I'll find. Okay. Well, I didn't think of a question because I specifically said we're not doing it. So one of you guys can come up with the question.
No, it's your job.
that's
You're
your
the boss,
job.
after all.
All right. What is your guys' favorite vegetable?
That's lame.
What the fuck is that as a question?
Tough shit.
I like kumara. Kumara is quite delicious.
It's a weird choice, but I like it.
Why is it a weird choice? It's delicious.
No, it's
I'm
just an
surprised.
obscure
I'm
kind of
surprised you
vegetable.
didn't say tomatoes.
Oh,
Adding a vegetable.
yuck.
Anyway,
Oh, gross. Even
I was
thinking
gonna-
of it makes me vomit.
I was gonna go with the potato because who doesn't like?
It doesn't really
like-
count, to be fair.
All right, well, then I'll go with carrots.
Hey, that's a good option. That was one of my top 2 finalists.
But like a good carrot, you know, not like one of those ones that's not very sweet when you're just like, nah, you know.
yeah, Well,
I've never
yeah,
known
the ones I'm
carrots
talking
to be
about.
sweet. Everyone says they're sweet, but I've never known them to be sweet.
that's why they put them in like cake and stuff because it's technically sweet.
Yeah, and but a hummus, but I have to put in some hummus. You're away.
Yeah, man. Well, I'm gonna go with what was I? Oh yeah, I was gonna go with onion, like red onions.
Oh
Good
yeah, red
time.
onions are badass. Yep.
Yeah, it's a vibe.
You
Yeah.
just like
So
peel an onion and eat it.
no, that would be weird. But yes, okay. Now we're going to talk about the actual main topic, which everybody, all our
You
lovely listeners are here to talk about.
deliberately made the random question very
Dumb.
short so that we don't talk about it for very long.
Yeah, well, that's the whole point of that segment anyway. So we're talking about nano aquariums. So what is it? What is a nano aquarium? That's, I guess, where I wanted to start because every person you ask is going to have a different definition. Like, how big is it? What type of aquarium is it? All this kind of thing. So I'm going to throw it out to you guys. If I say that word, nano aquarium, what do you guys think of, like size wise and like maybe fish wise and all this kind of thing? What sort of parameters would you put on that discussion or limit on that sort of size?
I'm thinking around that towards the 25 to 40 litre mark.
Yeah,
Would be my
like
guess.
anything smaller than that, you mean?
Yeah. Like I wouldn't call a 2-foot tank a nano tank. As
A
such,
2-foot tank, yeah.
like a 60 centimeter tank. Probably not. I wouldn't call it a nano tank, but
I
the
suppose
problem is
unless you get one of those
people
real long and skinny and short ones, would be.
long and skinny, not
Like,
girthy.
exactly.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Ah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
What would
anyway,
you say,
I
Cam?
guess the problem is it's always relative as well. Like I've seen people when I go to visit them or talk to them. Oh, we've got a massive tank. It's like this big, and we've got all these, and you're just like. Some people think you see people sell a huge tank on Facebook and it's like 75 centimeters or something. Like,
Yeah.
so some
It's all
people think
relative, I suppose.
it's all relative. Yeah.
Yeah. But no,
To
so
the
you're
size,
saying
to
like
the size.
anything in the 1 foot region.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah.
thinking. For me.
Yeah. What would you say, Cam?
Anything in and around the 40 litre mark and less, I probably consider to be a nano tank, give or take, roughly.
Yeah. So that would be
Um,
pretty similar. Like anything bigger than that would generally be a larger than 1 foot type of thing, eh? Type of situation.
It's
Yeah.
interesting. It's interesting to see the discussion in the comments there too, with people saying someone could
Yeah.
see me with a tank with pygmy cories and harlequin rasboras.
Yeah.
I'd
I
probably
think
do a
some of
nano
those.
tank with cherry barbs like I had in Kim's class before we got a big one, or I'd do celestial pearl danios because I do think they're cool.
Yeah,
I think
man.
some of those Aqua One tanks that are like 41 litres, they're 2 foot long, but they'd still be volume wise be considered a nano, but they don't give that nano tank vibe because of the way they look, if that makes sense. So I think it's not just a
agree.
volume size, it's also kind of a vibe of how the tank itself
I
appears
would
to
go
be.
the other way though, because like Aqua One does have those ones that's like maybe a bit bigger. Like, so I'd probably say like 30 liters would be the max for my sort of thinking of it. But I know there's like those Aqua One tanks that's like they call them like a portrait or something. That's like really tall, but like that's maybe 60 liters, I think. But it's only like 30 centimeters square for the footprint, and then it's a lot taller. So I'd probably consider that a nano tank, even though volume wise it's more. Like it's probably not what I would consider it, but in terms of like the floor space and like room, I guess it probably would be. So it does depend a lot, but yeah, again, I'd say anything in the 30 liter region below. But Thomas reckons anything 150 liters or less would be nano in like a
In
nano
his
tank.
mind,
Which yeah, I mean that's still pretty decent size, but
It's
in the
way
context
blown
of
out of nano.
yeah, but I guess in the context of like, the tank sitting behind Ryan, that would definitely be a nano tank, I guess, relative. Helen reckons 90 liters or less, which is still, I think, a little bit big, but it's that would kind of be that 2 foot region and below. And then Melissa reckons 60 centimeters, which is like more or less the same as what Helen and I think Ryan said. So
Do you guys
close
want
enough.
to know? Do you guys want to know the actual answer? Because Google's told me the actual answer.
Google 100% trustworthy.
Okay, so in the world of small tanks, in the freshwater aquarium hobby, a nano tank is usually defined. So there you go, as a glass tank. As a glass tank undercutting the volume of a standard 60 by 30 by 30 aquarium of 54 liters. And then directly below that, it says a nano tank is smaller than 10 gallons. So that actually conflicts with that. But anyway, so we're all talking sort of less than 60 centimeters, according to Google, but it can be whatever you want it to be, basically.
Yeah, I suppose. What are they gonna do? They kind of come arrest you if you say a 5 foot tank's a nano tank. Do whatever you want. Who cares?
We're not the aquascaping police. You can do what you want.
Yeah.
I've always had in my mind that cubes seem to be nano tanks, but only cubes. Like when it
Even
says
like
nano,
big
I always think cube.
That's interesting. I don't know if I
I have
definitely don't get that
that.
either.
I have
That's
that in
weird.
my mind. I have that in my mind too, Cam. I don't know why, but I think of small square aquariums on stands, almost like your cherry bulb tank that you've got is like what I think is but it's obviously bigger than what the nano tank would be because it's a little bit bigger, but that sort of thing is
I
what I
suppose
think
it
of
must
too.
be something to do with the like a cube style. I guess gives less floor space than a normal rectangle tank. So it probably means that you're gonna think of it as smaller than it actually is. Because it doesn't give as much area, I guess, if that makes sense.
And Helen's really not happy with our definitions. She said her 290-litre tanks and nano footprints, but they're double 10 gallons, so you're double a nano tank according to Google.
But see, I don't know. Like a 45 centimeter cube. Like if I'm thinking about it, I'm like a 45 centimeter cube. I'm like, yeah, that would definitely be a nano tank. But then you say 90 liters, and you're like, that's definitely bigger than a nano tank. So it's like, you've got to have this conflict going on in your head.
What we're really trying to say is no one actually knows.
It's completely arbitrary. Do whatever you want. Who cares?
It's regarded as a small tank, so we've got nowhere. We've got something.
Yeah,
we've got
pretty
nowhere.
much. So yeah, and what would you guys say? Like, obviously, you see a lot of fish tanks in your lives. What would be like some of the most common types of setups in that people do? Like maybe types of fish and everything. People would use a nano tank. Like, what do you see a lot of?
Arowana. No,
sorry, no comment.
Common pleco.
Yeah.
I don't see a lot of them, but the ones I see online look cool, like those chili rasboras and stuff like that.
That's like
common overseas, obviously.
Yeah, there's like those
minnows.
microfish you see, like microfish you hear people talk about, which I think is a little bit different. That's a bit more in Cam's wheelhouse in terms of
shrimp
knowledge. Oh yeah, shrimp.
Shrimp overseas
So yeah,
is massive. Yeah,
we should put that
stuff we can't get.
This conversation is definitely steering towards shrimp, but for our overseas listeners, we don't get shrimp in New Zealand, so none of us know anything about them, and so we're not going to talk about them. But I'm sure it's a good option. We just can't add anything there, so I'm sure there's other podcasts that talk about shrimp. We apologize. But yeah, what Cam? I have this question is specifically for you, so it's good that Ryan's left. But what would you say is the most common traps you see people falling into when they're talking or dealing with a nano aquarium? Like, I think it's a little bit different to like a normal aquarium, in parentheses. So like, when people are dealing with a nano aquarium, what do you see them getting themselves into trouble with?
I think feeding is one thing, not having food small enough for the smaller fish.
Yeah, that's a big one, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what would be your suggestion to solve that? Like, what are some good micro or nano foods to prevent this?
If you're willing
issue?
to do live food, brine shrimp works well, or white worms, microworms, all that sort of
Microworms.
stuff. If you're willing to do that, if not, the fish science microgranules are pretty handy. Equally, the Sera insect works really well if you just chuck it in a pepper grinder and break it down a little bit more.
And then make sure you don't lose that pepper grinder.
Yeah,
Make sure it doesn't end up in the cupboard. That'll be crack up, to be fair, but still.
The options there.
Yep.
Also, finding filtration that works the right way. A lot of small microfish don't like being blown around very much, and
Yep.
a lot of filters don't quite go small enough, if that makes sense. They're too powerful for a lot of tanks. So
Yep.
finding filters that aren't going to blow the crap out of everything and then irritate the fish can be quite a problem as well.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess I'd like to go through and touch on some of those points. So going back to the feeding, I guess kind of a related thing that I notice a lot of times people is overfeeding, because the challenge when you're dealing with these real tiny little fish is, like, naturally they got really tiny little stomachs, so they need, like, almost like no food. Like, if you pinch out like flakes out of a jar or something, you've definitely got too much in your fingers. Just, it's hard to pinch out such a tiny little amount of food, and it does make it, I guess, challenging, because just dealing with such a small amount of
So
food
now he waves.
is hard. He's
He's
waving at
waving
someone else. I'm
to
sure.
Kim. She just got up.
He doesn't care about us, Cam. But yeah, the
I'm
food
waving.
thing is a common sort of trap that I think people run into for sure.
I've definitely when I've kept like my little
Little pony.
little shellies, like and you put like a pear in a tank, and I'm used to putting like big amounts of foods in the tank. I've definitely been guilty of putting like way too much in that shelly tank and going back the next day and going, oh shit, and having to siphon it all out because there's just food everywhere. So
Yeah.
you've got to be
Really
real.
easy to do when you keep bigger fish as well. I'm the same. Like, you can throw as much as you want in with African cichlids, give or take, and it's gone.
Yeah.
But like,
Yeah,
little fish,
you're never going to overfeed them.
You just can't do that.
And I feed the same food to everything, so the pellets are quite large. So I do actually have to actively sort of give it a bit of a crush before I put it in there. And like you say, you can use a pepper bloody thing, but I don't know when mine's gone. When you find it, let me know, because somewhere in my fish room. Problem is they're circular.
Measure it with my keys.
They're circular, and I guess you put it down, and it's probably just rolled and fallen off the back of a tank somewhere and disappeared into the ether.
I'm sure someone's got a square one. Don't you worry. They've got wild things in the modern world.
I've got a square
one.
Wild.
Are we still talking about paper grinders?
Yep, certainly are. Get your mind into the gutter.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, but no, the feeding is definitely a common challenge. And then the next thing you said, I think, was the filtration. Is that right?
Yeah.
That's what I think. One of the things I noticed is sponge filters seems to be by far the most popular option.
The problem with them is they just take up a lot of space in the tank, hey?
That's what I was going to say.
Small,
it's hard to find small ones.
Yeah.
Like, even like a normal one is going to be like a quarter of your tank. Like,
you probably have to say that a hang on the back is probably the best thing for a nano aquarium, but obviously.
But you got to
in New Zealand, we don't get like any.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Otherwise, the other option is I've seen a lot of people kind of DIYing like flow restrictors and stuff for this kind of size of tank.
You can use those internals for the spray bar. They're quite good.
Yeah.
Drill the spray bar somewhat.
Yeah.
And just direct it back into the glass.
You're taking up tank space again.
Yeah. It is. It would be so good if we could get hang on back filters like at
We
all,
can-
basically.
We can get the aqua clear ones, but you don't buy from the supplier because you don't like them.
You told me they were getting discontinued like maybe a month ago.
The big sizes have been.
Oh, well, that's good. That's good.
They
That
still
I
do
could.
the aqua clear 20s.
Oh, well, I did not know that. I do actually. I would buy from them, but to be honest, I did used to, and then no one would buy the Aquaclears, so then they sat on the shelf for ages, and I was like, no, fuck that.
I
But
think the real problem is that you actually can't lift up the box for the aqua clear because it's quite heavy.
bro, I can handle the Aquaclear no trouble. I can probably hold 2 at the same time.
That's
Not to
that's
brag.
so true.
One
We
at
could
a time.
probably do bicep
Yeah,
curls
man.
with them. Just sitting there.
Do you know, you
Next
guys
I'll be
laugh.
able to lift. Then I'll be able to lift the proper external filter one day when I grow up.
You guys laugh, but you could sit there and like do, lift up and drop an FX6, and it would be the same as a proper workout. 100%. The thing's stupid.
Yeah.
Even an empty one
We
is stupidly
get
heavy.
these small aqua clears which work hair on back. I'm looking at one right now that I'm using in my little 15-litre one.
That's cool.
You can also get really ridiculously small sponge filters. If you hold the line caller and give me 4 seconds, I'll go get it.
Sure.
You can talk to yourself for a minute.
Well, so I've noticed Melissa's been commenting, and I'm going to go through the comments. So, like, yes, you can get the native shrimps, but unfortunately, none of us have ever kept them, so we don't know
And
anything about them, unfortunately.
apparently they need a chiller, so it is very, very hard to do on a small tank.
Yeah. And then she's also said about those little tiny 6 centimeter sponge filters. Yes, I think you're talking about Lou, the guy. I know Lou. He
I've
sells
got a
these
bunch
tiny
of
little
them.
ones, and I am supposed to be buying Ryan a whole bunch more to do his fishing, but I've just forgotten until just then. Not gonna lie. And yeah, I think he sells them on like Trade Me and stuff. So if you're ever after a tiny little sponge filter, Trade Me will probably have them, or Facebook Marketplace and that kind of thing will be the place to get them. And they're like this big. They're like, well, this big. He says on a podcast. Oh, that's a different one to the one I was thinking of.
It's a little one to the different one to the one I got too. Yeah.
So they're like really thin and narrow.
That's cool.
That looks like
a pre-filter.
smoking. It looks like a smoking implement.
Yeah.
You'd know.
So that would suffice for most nanos, not take up a lot of space.
Yeah, the one I was thinking of is like just like a normal filter.
It's a classic sponge filter, but like, tiny.
Yeah.
But that I think is better, like especially the hang on the side aspect. I think is much better because it's any of the ones that stick on the side, I just think is so much more like aesthetically. It looks just way more like tucked out the way.
Until the bloody suction cups fail. That sucks. I hate that.
Just boil them, bruh. They'll come back to life.
Only boil them so many times before you're making some sort of rancid tea, and they don't do anything.
Well,
you're not supposed to drink it afterwards, I guess. But
I suppose they also are like a few dollars, so
yeah,
you can just replace them, I guess. But yeah, no, that is a good idea. Those tiny little sponge filters. It's probably the most popular option for that kind of tank because it's like obviously you put just gentle flow through, and it does the job, but it doesn't, flow everything to pieces.
I totally think you're wrong. I don't think sponge filters are.
I think little internals are probably the most common thing you see in a small tank, I reckon.
I'd agree, but it's hard to get small enough ones. Even the small ones are still quite strong.
I still think the hang-on backs are probably the ones that are more suited for that.
They're the best thing for it. They're the best thing for it, but I don't know if they're the most popular. I haven't seen that many of them around.
I would have thought they would be.
Even an Aquaclear 20 though would be too big if you're keeping like, some sort of, what kind of thing of an example? Some sort of like very still water fish in like a 20-litre tank.
I've got the slotty little juicy flowy things.
Well, I'm running an Aquaclear 20 on a 15-litre tank and it's fine. So you're wrong, Colonel Sanders.
Bro, imagine being Colonel Sanders. That'd be lit. But yeah, all right. Well, I'll defer to you on that one then.
Apart from the fact that he found his money when just before he died, that would suck.
Fair enough, but I mean, you own KFC, so what more could you want?
I would love to get all the KFC. Actually,
he probably gets free.
Bad for me.
He probably gets free chicken. It got free chicken, so too easy.
Yep.
And Matin filters, Tom says, did not think of that. That is if you're even Cam could DIY a Matin filter. So like, if you're at all inclined, definitely do it.
The uplifters are pretty hard to make properly, but I don't know if he could do that without drilling a hole in his finger.
But a Matin filter you could just do in a corner.
But you're getting out of the realms of nano tank if you're using Matin filters, surely.
No, you could just do a little one in a corner.
You could do the whole back. You could do the whole back of the tank and grow like a moss wall up it, and then it'll be sweet.
Yeah, and so you've taken up a quarter of your 40 litres, and you've got even less room. Or a quarter of your 15 litres.
Fight.
You don't have to use a 15 centimetre thick piece of sponge in there. You can use like a 20 centimetre thick piece of sponge if you want to.
Did you just go a bigger size from what you originally said?
I think you meant 20 millimetre.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, that would be a massive piece of sponge. Yeah, you're right.
Damn it. Yeah, but it would be funny to have a massive sponge. I do rate Matin filters. I think they're underutilized. And
yeah, I agree. Matins are cool, but I don't think they're cool for a nano.
The only problem with them is cleaning the bloody things, and I've got 4 that I need to clean out in the fish room, and I'm dreading it.
Just don't clean it. Problem solved.
I haven't. That's the problem, and now the tanks are getting murkier and murkier and murkier, and the Matin filters are getting pretty. Because the problem is when you pull them out, all the crap goes into the tank, and then when I go to put them back in, the fish are all trying to hide behind the Matin filter, and I can't actually see in there because all the crap's gone into the tank. So
just do what you're always doing. Just put another sponge filter in it. That'll fix it.
Probably would, to be fair.
Does the job. Yep.
That'll fix it. Just do that.
But Matins are probably better than sponge filters.
A bazillion times better than the sponge filters.
Yeah, I agree. They're cool.
So what I thought we would do in this segment is maybe we could just go around and discuss a few like ideas of little nano tank setups that either us or the listeners or something could do if your creative juices are flowing from our riveting discussion. Maybe give you some ideas about different nano tanks that we could look at for our Christmas projects. So I don't know who wants to start, but what would be a good little nano tank that would be a fun one to set up with in that sort of 40 liters or less size?
The only one that I can really think of for me is the Shelleys, of course, because it has to be said.
Sure.
Probably Brevis over Aussies in that size tank, because the Aussies do get a little bit more dominant and aggressive. They can be okay in a smaller tank, but the Brevis just seem to get along. The only problem with the Brevis is if you get male and female, they're going to breed, and you're going to end up with lots of fry. So, although that tends to sort of self-regulate itself out as if you leave them alone.
Yeah.
I don't want to go down a route of African cichlids, but do we have a third species of the shellies in the country?
We had Kanguisis in the country.
You killed them.
Yeah, they were fucking hard work. they killed over if you looked at them. And we had Simbu comps as well, which are probably classified as a dwarf shelly because they don't get very big. And again, they did not.
So that's an Autolamprologus, which is like Calvis or a compressed seps that you'd probably know more, but a little one that lives in a shell and got murdered by Ryan.
I spent $1,000 on 8 of them and killed them. So yeah.
Suboptimal outcome.
I've got a feeling that I had a group of them when they came in 8 years ago.
Theo says hello.
Hello, Theo.
And I think
you killed them as well?
I sold them to someone who doesn't live in the country anymore.
Oh, well, that's not ideal.
Who was pretty prolific in the African cichlid world at the time.
I'm trying to think who it was.
I probably would have been about 4 years old when this happened.
Yeah, you'll know him. I guarantee you'll know him, Ryan.
Yeah.
But
it'll come to me.
I did hear, there is a rumor that there is more Sumbus coming into the country at some point soon. So that's exciting. We'll see how that, eventuates. But it is a cool little fish for sure. So yeah, what would you think would be a good little nano tank idea, Cam?
I'm all for trying to set up biotope type stuff. That's just me and my vibe.
So how would you go about doing that?
Lots of wood, lots of leaf litter, lots of tannin stained water, and then find fish to work for that accordingly. Take into account if anything might be going to jump, try and put something on top which is not biotope, like duckweed or a zola or something similar to try and counter the jumping. Well, no. See, I think nanos, and I don't think lid. Like, I think open top aquariums.
Does it rimless like aquascaping tanks?
Yeah, that's where I'm kind of what I think of when I think of a nano tank. I don't think lidded tanks. So yeah, open top cubes is what I kind of think when I think nanos.
Do a mesh, get a little insect screen lid. I know a guy.
Yeah,
I've done. Hey, I know a guy too. I've done that with my frog tank, and it works pretty well.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, we got options, but yeah. So, what sort of fish would you be considering for that kind of thing? Like, pick one.
Sparkling go-go gouramis.
That's a good choice. They're cool little fish.
Cool fish, yeah. Depending on what I was doing with the water condition, maybe spotted raspora, red face, Danios. What else would I look at? Well, what have I got on my list?
Chili raspora?
Pygmy cories, yeah. Chili rasporas. Blue exorhodis. Maybe chocolate gourami, depending on the size of the tank. Could be an option too.
Yeah. So you're really wanting to lean into that.
Cories.
You're really wanting to lean into that aquascaping blackwater type situation, like really, dark water and lots of botanicals and tannins and all this kind of thing.
Depending on the fish that I'm using, like some don't want that. Some want crystal clear water, like CPDs want super clear water. So I'd work out what fish I want to go with first, and sort of base it around that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. I was going to say something and I don't remember what it was, so that's kind of awkward. Yeah, don't remember. Kind of been important, but no, that sounds cool. Like a little kind of almost a nerdy tank, I guess you'd say.
I wouldn't say that, but you can.
I am. That's why I said it.
Okay. So what's your definition of a nerdy tank then?
Just like a tank, like a non-fish person
a tank
is
that you
not going to care. Sorry.
He's got the blanket.
With a blanket.
He's got his too.
You got a pillow?
Yeah, man.
Look at that.
Because I have to sit on this. This computer's not charging, so that's a problem. If I disconnect, that will be why.
If you plug it in
rookie
to the wall outlet, it might
have you flicked the switch on? Because I've had that trouble before.
It doesn't surprise me.
I don't actually think it is switched on.
Yesterday I plugged my laptop in and it said it's not a battery. I said, what's going on?
All right. You guys talk for 2 minutes while I figure out how to fix this.
You can just turn your video off if you don't want us to see your blankie and stuff and everything spinning around.
I don't care.
Too late now. We've already given them shit about it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
so
you guys talk while I fix this.
I've got a question. I've got a question about a fish, and if we can put it in a nano tank, can we put fighters in a nano tank? Bettas. Can we do betters in a nano tank? Is that okay? Is that okay? Are we allowed to? What is the betta in a nano tank? Okayness. Where is our level for betta? Obviously, not a jar on the bench. We're not okay with that. But what? Unless you're a breeder.
I think 20 litres is kind of ample for them. I wouldn't go any smaller than 10 litres, personally.
I agree. I wouldn't do any less than 20 litres for them, really. But, they'll be fine in a little tank.
Well, you're going to hate to know that the bettas that I sell in the shop are in an 18-litre tank thing.
Well,
2 litres
Bite
too
me.
small. You're
I'm
cancelled.
gonna
Come at me,
I'm
Peter.
gonna
Come at me.
get the
Do
fish
you have
people on there.
do you have substrate in there too? There might be 17.5 litres, and that'll
I've
be
got
even worse.
substrate, and I've got wood, and I've got plants.
Oh.
One of them might be 15 litres. Come at me, Peter. Come at me, Cam.
Not acceptable.
Damn.
Let's wrestle.
But yes, but I do think those little like 5-liter tanks that you
Yeah,
you
no
can
good.
buy, not chuck some plants in there. Chuck a
Melissa made
lamb
it
swim
funny.
in there.
She said that they're better in smaller tanks. Yeah, and I agree.
That's
My mate stuck one in a 6-foot tank, and it just vanished.
why.
It's just like you could never see it, and then he ended up floating it in a bowl in the tank so that he could actually, so that it was because it was just got too, it seemed to get too stressed in the big tank. Had an FX5 on it and stuff. I think there was too much flow, too much bigness going on and stuff. So yeah.
Would have got lost in that, not able to find the food.
Cam, instead of asking everyone for their stories this week, can you ask everyone for their best dad joke fish pun?
Sure.
Because Melissa's getting on board with the dad jokes. It's just you that doesn't understand it.
There's bound to be some better ones out there than Melissa's one, that's for sure.
Hey, if you got one, let me know.
And by the time we've finished,
I will ask, but so full disclosure, the only entry we got for this week was Helen's. So I'll ask, but please, if you're listening, think of just Google it. Fish jokes would be much appreciated, and the winner's going to get read out on the next week's episode. So please let us know. Whatever you like. I'll let these guys judge the best answers. But yeah.
Is
that because you're not a dad and you don't understand dad jokes?
You what, sorry?
I said, is that because you're not a dad and you don't understand dad jokes?
Sure. Can be whatever you want, whatever reason you want. Also, hello, Mini Scenes GB. Nice to have you with us. Hope you're doing well. Thank you very much. I think it's a new listener.
Okay. So, Karen, we're talking about nano. So we are allowed to keep better in nano tanks. That's a good idea.
Yes, just not super crazy nano.
Not like a glass bowl on the kitchen bench.
Yeah, that's
we're
past
that. We're past
not
that.
the thing.
Depends how big your bowl is.
Yeah,
you could have a 20-liter glass bowl, I guess.
Could have a 20-liter.
I've seen some pretty massive ones. I saw one like on I don't know where it was, like on Instagram or something. That was like probably 100 liters, but that's a Brit. That's large. That's not a nano bowl. But yeah. What do you guys think about? So you kind of touched on it before, I guess, but I think it's something I want to talk about a little bit more. But obviously, with a nano tank, you have less room for decorations and substrate and plants and that. How would you guys go about balancing, obviously leaving enough room in the tank with, maximizing the escaping and the decorations and all this kind of thing? Like, is there a contention there for you guys, do you think?
Again, work out what fish you want to go with first, work out where they want to swim, how they want to swim, what kind of habitat they want to go with, and make it accordingly. If you're going to use shellies as an example, you could probably load the middle to top section of that with all sorts of stuff and it wouldn't affect them whatsoever. Whereas something that wants to swim right through the middle region might want to leave that more open and have some bigger stuff growing up the back, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
It's just sad that you can't. There's only so many small, like sunken ships and SpongeBob sort of things you can put in them. Is what I think. It's it is a shame because they're kind of cool, and I don't know if they make like a Optimus Prime or a Megatron big enough or small enough for them. So, although you could have it coming out the top, that'd be pretty cool.
Ryan's got his ideas for his summer project, I guess, all sorted. Get a big chuck it. Get a big one. Chuck it in that tank behind you.
A big massive. I reckon it'll have to be Megatron, because he was the bottom of the ocean. So
Yeah, but I mean, I suppose as long as you leave enough room, and that enough room is going to depend on where they like to occupy and everything. It is. I think some people sometimes get worried that like you can't have anything really because it's a small volume of water. You have to leave all the space, but I mean that's definitely not true.
I
There's
think
definitely
you need to balance what the fish want as well. Like if they're looking for things they can dart in and out of in between of to get refuge all the time, then why are we giving them a totally open body of water that's going to freak them out? If they're wanting to be having the ability to dart in and out of stuff and hide behind things and swim under leaves and stuff like that, give them what they want to make them feel comfortable and secure in this environment.
This is a very hard and very subjective thing to do, though, because we don't really go and have a chat to these fish and say, "Hey, dude, what do you want?" They'll probably all be quite happy in a tank full of plants, like.
Fairly easy to do some research and work out what their living environments are in the wild.
But often their wild environment can go from being really jungly to being very open, depending on what, like if you're talking Amazonian fish, depending on what sort of puddle they end up in and what stream they end up in. You know what I mean? Like looking at the footage. So it's definitely subjective, eh?
Yeah, for sure. What were you saying, sorry?
You probably wouldn't want to fill it with plants, but the fish would probably still be quite happy.
Yeah.
As long as they can still find food and get around the place, they'll be happy.
Yeah. I suppose that's the important part, isn't it? What were you saying, sorry, Kim?
I can't remember.
Yeah.
Oh.
I found Kim started off with a little 25-litre tank in her classroom, and we filled it for Java fern and stuff, and just had like maybe a quarter of the tank with Java fern. And by the end of the year, it was completely full with Java fern, and we pulled a couple of extra cherry bulbs out of there, and everything was happy as, So.
Yeah, that's good. If something's breeding, that's always the best option. The thing I was also
an interesting suggestion too.
Yeah, I think you get all sorts of different like little killifish in that that don't need that much room, but
even the bigger ones are still essentially live in a drying up puddle, right?
Yeah.
So they probably don't need an 8-foot tank to keep them. You can keep them in a smaller tank. Yeah. Cherry shrimp, I wish.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we don't get any shrimp at all in New Zealand, except for there's a little native one, but it's quite different to the shrimp that people think of.
They have no color.
Yeah, they're like little glass shrimp, but they need like cool water, and they don't breed unless they have brackish water and like all this kind of stuff. So kind of annoying, but what are you going to do, I suppose? But yeah, what I was going to say is, what would you guys say is like? So say I've got one of these little tanks that I've got set up, but I'm interested in breeding something. Is there any options that you guys can think of things that would be good to look at breeding in this sort of quite a small, like desktop or benchtop tank for a bit of a side project, I guess?
Well, the shellies will breed in there, but the best thing I reckon for the beginner is the white cloud mountain minnow. Put lots of moss and stuff in there, and just chuck some white cloud mountain minnows. Celestial pearls did the same for me when I kept them years ago in a small tank full of moss. They just bred and I survived. So those would be my ones that I'd go for.
Yeah, that'd be a good option. I mean, I think the white clouds will be good because they're not like, because they're an egg scatterer, obviously, but they're not like they're basically like a live bear, if that makes sense. Like very easy to breed. Kind of just put them together and they'll handle the rest. Whereas a lot of the egg scatterers is a little bit more involved in terms of like
hands-on, eh?
Yeah, effort and all of that. But Yeah, no, the white clouds is a good option. Do you have any other suggestions, Cam?
If you're looking to spawn, probably the white cloud would be the option, I think, in something that's small.
Yeah.
Maybe Ember Tetras could be an option if you're on the slightly larger side.
Oh yeah. Are they easy to breed? I've never actually tried.
Apparently so.
Oh.
Yeah, they spawn okay in big groups by themselves, so that could be an option.
And then
Nice.
trickle to that would be just have lots of plants and just hope for one or two fry to survive from each batch type thing with that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like I say, we had a random cherry bulb survive in a small tank with lots of plants. You know, pretty much anything will survive if there's lots of cover.
Yeah. I suppose that's the key. What do you think about guppies in that sort of size, Cam? And Ryan, I suppose, but
They'd be okay in that, but they probably just have to watch the population. That's the thing with guppies. You just got to watch. You don't end up with too many of the bloody things. A male only guppy tank will be cool.
I can see Cam thinking very hard.
Yeah, I don't know. I think nano tank. I don't think guppies.
Makes sense.
That doesn't even there's so many other way cool options. I just wouldn't even consider putting guppies in them.
Yeah, I suppose.
Now, someone in the comments has put Inla guppies, and they're a little bit different because they are a smaller, more wild type strain of guppies. But but if you're on the bigger size, you definitely could do guppies, but you just have to watch the population and make sure you've got some way of removing them and rehoming them or whatever, Yeah. Because otherwise, you just end up with too many, overstock your tank, and then it all goes to crap for you.
Yeah, I think if you've got a decent strain of a specific, or even just an intentional guppy, I think you could always
What is an intentional guppy as opposed to a non-intentional guppy?
Well, you've got intent, you're intentionally trying to breed it, if that makes sense. Not just a whole bunch of random grey stuff, but maybe some sort of koi guppy or a colourful or specific type.
So you're saying the intentional guppies are more important than the unintentional guppies?
I'm saying they're more popular for sure.
Okay, right. I'm just trying to clarify that. If you're sort of stereotyping your guppies and putting them in boxes, little glass boxes, maybe.
Little glass boxes for sure. But I mean, because if you're breeding decent koi guppies, I think you'll always be able to sell them if they're breeding too much, even if it's a couple dollars each or something. But if you're breeding just a bunch of random uncolored stuff, probably you will have trouble, I guess, is the best way to put it. Have trouble to find places for them to go. So yeah, but I'd say guppies is a good option for sure. It's a good
with
especially
guppies,
for little kids and that.
With guppies, I have seen regularly on community Facebook pages people just giving them away. Oh, my tank's too full of guppies. Does anyone want any for their tank? And then someone goes, here's people comment and say, yeah. Whether they go into good homes or whether they're going to be looked after is a different story. But it does seem to be lots of demand for them, for people to suck in their tank and boost the numbers up again.
Yeah. People always, I suppose no one's going to complain about a free fish, even if it's a grey, uncolored guppy or something like that. An
unintentional guppy.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know why you find that so funny. It makes sense.
Stupid name.
You just said an intentional guppy. I'm like, what the hell is an intentional guppy?
A guppy you're breeding on purpose, not just some random stuff you put together.
If you have a male and a female guppy, you're breeding them on purpose. There's no.
They become intentional guppies
something
then,
on purpose, trying to breed koi or a specific,
I was here saying if you're line breeding guppies.
Line bred to assorted.
Not even necessarily line bred. Line bred is, people think of very kind of being anal about it. But if you just put two more or less kois together, that kind of thing, it makes sense. Trust me.
It definitely sounds like something that you definitely call an intentional guppy. I'm sure it's an internationally recognised word, and then everything else is an unintentional guppy. Even if you plan to breed it.
I would expect nothing less from a politician than just trying to find a really weird way around things and not really having it properly explained.
And then without realizing that they were actually wrong and said something stupid, never admitting it, just carrying on.
Yeah,
What do you mean? It makes perfect sense.
It makes no sense, politician.
It makes perfect sense. You're just too dumb to understand.
Typical politician sitting on their high ivory tower, thinking everyone's below them.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, there we
well,
go.
Where's the lie? All right. Well, did you guys have anything else you wanted to touch on in the Nano Aquarium
How do
space?
you light these things? Do you just use those clip-on LED things, or like a desk lamp with a bulb in it from Bunnings, or what do you do?
I've seen a lot of people use like the little desk lamps. You get them from, like you said, Bunnings or the warehouse or that. There's the ones with like little crane neck, and you can just point it. Because I've seen a lot of people do it like, you have, I don't know, some sort of like duckweed or something, for example, and then you have this little desk lamp on an angle, and it gives that kind of like sun going through the foliage, like look. Which is pretty.
That's a good one. That's a good one, Dan. I like that one. So that's pretty much what it sounds like. Yeah.
Well, does one of you want to read it out, considering that we are on a podcast and
just put it.
People might
Dan
not be watching the video.
You have to wake up every day and say your guppy intentions 3 times, and intentional guppies will happen. That's exactly what intentional guppies are, I think. Yeah, that's what
where's the lie? It's true. It'll work. There's only one way to find out, isn't there?
Look in the mirror and say your guppy intentions.
Yeah.
Manifest your guppy intentions to the world, and they will come to you.
Exactly.
Is this applicable with other fish? Because maybe that's what I've been doing wrong recently with fish.
Well, are you trying to breed stuff?
I'm trying to breed everything possible under the sun.
Then it's intentional, so don't worry about it.
I need a mirror and I need a whip to whip myself with.
All right. Well,
hang on.
That's a bit R-rated
we've
for this
already
podcast.
Talked about you reproducing with your family, and we don't condone it on this podcast. All right, so it's not okay.
So yes, back to the topic. But a desk lamp is a good option. Otherwise, you can get like little clip-on LED, like proper plant lights if you're trying to grow something a bit more difficult. Or you can get tiny little bar LEDs for certain sizes. If it's, I think 45 centimeters would be the smallest one for the most part of the strip lights that we can get in New Zealand. But I'm sure there is smaller ones out there.
What about CO2? Can you do CO2 on a small tank, or is it just impossible?
Yeah, you can. It's a bit more fiddly, I guess, to get it all set up right. Obviously, you got less water to dilute it. So.
Does it make the pH go crazy?
Well, yeah, but it would make the pH go crazy regardless. So,
Ryan,
if you get,
it's just the same as having a big tank, but at a smaller scale.
Oh, so
exactly.
you can get gear that actually does it though that small.
Yeah.
You just wind regulators
you just have to be a bit more.
Regulators are all the same. You just turn it down and put it into less stuff going through.
You just have to be a little bit more fiddly, because obviously each adjustment is going to have a bigger impact. But you can definitely do it. A lot of people do it with the soda stream bottles and that sort of size.
Instead of having 100,000 liters of water flow through your filter, 100 liters of water flow per hour is probably going to do the job. Same as a big tank, just smaller scale.
Magic. This is white man's magic, this shit, hey?
That's racist.
It's blowing my mind.
Yeah, man. But no, that's a good idea.
These
little nano planted tanks is really it's in vogue at the moment. A lot of people wanting to do this kind of thing, because obviously you can save money. It's much cheaper to buy a 20-liter tank than it is a 200-liter tank. And if you're limited on space, you live in an apartment or something, everyone can put one on your bench, but you might not have room for a 4-foot tank in your living room kind of situation. So there's a lot of options, and there is a lot more fish to choose from than you would first think. Like, first think of it, it's like, oh yeah, I can choose between a guppy or a betta, but start looking at like your sparkling gouramis and all this kind of thing, and there's a bit more room.
Sparkling gourami, they're good ones.
Yeah, man. It's a good choice.
Like all fish, yep.
So yeah, did anyone else have any? Did you guys have anything else you wanted to touch on?
Nah,
Either of
No.
you?
Outdoor
Nah,
rules
I'm
and
done.
otherwise.
Is it even footy season at the moment?
It's always footy season, see? Up the wires.
Oh, nice.
Just got to remember.
How'd that go for you?
Don't go.
Yeah. It's your year.
Yeah.
It's your year next year, bro. It's your year next year. I'm sure.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
we're about, what,
Yeah.
15 days away from it being our year.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Well,
well, I look forward. We'll make fun of you when it all goes sideways. Don't worry.
Cheers, mate.
that's
Sweet
dependable.
as.
Just like a New Zealand's cricket team.
I don't want to talk about it.
Dependably shit.
Yeah. Leaves you wanting, shall we say?
I feel you.
All right. Well, do you wanna
So, I don't even know how to. Mini Scenes GB says she loves her nano tanks because they're nice change from a big sump clear air.
Hey Ryan.
And that's a
Ryan,
clear air.
if you
That's a
click on the
clear air,
comment,
see?
if you click on the
There
comment,
you
it
go.
brings it up, makes life really easy to read it.
Oh, wow. This is some magic
I
stuff.
can't do that, so I don't know
Why
what the
can't
hell's
you do
going
that?
on.
It's like it's only because you're admin.
Why can't you do that, Cam?
I have no idea. I click on it and nothing happens.
I click on it and nothing happens too. So it's,
okay.
you can highlight it. I can't do anything. It just like copy and paste it for me. So yeah.
All right. Well, Cam's officially in charge of the highlighting of the
Yes.
the bringing stuff on screen department.
Can you just off the record? Can you guys star it? Like you see the little star on the right hand side. Can you star it?
I got no star.
No, I got
You're
nothing,
a
mate.
you're a
So you're saying
superstar.
that I have the power and the control. Yeah, we'll take that. Thank you.
Sweet as.
DIY
All right,
Daddy in control. Let's sign
DIY
off on
Daddy.
that.
That's what I like to see.
Woo!
All right, cool. Well, that was awesome. It was actually way more fun than I thought it was going to be because I saw Nano Aquariums and I was like, this is going to be dumb. So it was actually way more fun.
Because you're prejudiced.
Prejudiced. Uh-oh. They're coming
Is
for
the
you.
cops driving around in Helensville?
Yeah,
That must
that
be
was
Nelson.
past me. That was me.
What? Don't you live in a dead? Aren't you in a
He's
dead end road?
There's a wagon. Here's a wagon gone away.
So about 4 meters that way is like the Nelson's Highway. I'm right on the edge of a highway.
You're on the
I
side of
couldn't. That's so weird. I couldn't hear the horses clopping
the
along.
main
then.
track. The main track line. Anyway,
All right, come on,
okay,
hurry up.
well, yep. We'll catch everyone next week. Thanks for listening. And
Send
the
us your dad jokes.
The Auckland Fish Club managed to beat us to get merch before we did, even though they started up after us. So that's really sad. But they got cool merch. I'll have to buy a hat from them sometime. And yeah, we'll talk to you next time about something equally exciting. And I'm sure Cam will come up with another stupid word like intentional guppies. So
Yeah,
there
man.
we go.
Tune in to find out. I'll get my thinking hat on.
Make sure you get your intentional fish manifestations every morning. That's your goal for this week, for your health and well-being, and your fish intentions to the world. We'll
Sweet as.
See you
All right.
later.
See you later.